Hi guys, welcome to On the DL with Dak and Lan.
We're here to show you the practical approach to health and fitness.
Hey guys, and welcome to another episode. Today we want to talk to you about the pros and cons of tracking your macros in MyFitnessPal. For me personally, I've tracked macros for like maybe 10 years, I think now, if I look back on it, maybe 9. And it's gone through like different stages of tracking as well. Like when I first started, I was religious with it, I was very, I would say, obsessive, looking back on it, and I got what I want out of it. I was able to get a really lean physique, but now where I'm at with my education and everything like that around it, looking back on it, it was a lot, for me personally, the obsession with MyFitnessPal and those numbers kind of took me the other way. I was definitely going off plan, and it would be like destroying myself off plan. Whereas now it's a little bit more balanced. But I know, Len and I are a little bit different because I've solely, done MyFitnessPal with a little bit of meal plans, for the last 10 years, whereas Lan has gone a little of a different approach.
Yeah. I reckon people have to earn if it fits your macros.
Which I agree with.
Yeah, I'm all for if it fits your macros, but I think you need the education before you do it. Because if you go into if it fits your macros first, you will inevitably focus on macronutrients, which means that you have a tendency to forget about micronutrients, the food quality, nutrient density, all of those sorts of things, which
it's a great place to start.
That's it. So when you go into if it fits your macros before you've been taught about food in general, the numbers are all which there's nothing you can do about that, right? Like there is nothing else represented on there. It's not teaching you anything other than how to count your calories, your protein, fats, and carbs. So that means that you are solely focused on those things, which means that the numbers are something that you are likely to become obsessive about. And unfortunately, you're likely to believe that they're finite, right? You're likely to believe that the numbers are the numbers and there's nothing outside of that. But you and I had this conversation very early on in our in our relationship, and I said to you, this will probably make you feel really uncomfortable, but did you know that not every gram of carbohydrates is 4 calories per gram? Not every gram of fat is 9 calories per gram, and not every gram of protein is 4 calories per gram. So what you're tracking is an average, but you're trying to chase an exact number, even though you're not tracking an exact number.
Which sounds so backwards. And that would probably freak out a lot of people because they're like, what do you mean? I think a large part of our job is trying to convince people that you don't actually have to be perfect to get the goal.
Yeah, it's re-educating. It's saying, okay, everything has its limits. So whether you track by following a plan, by if it fits your macros, whatever your form of controlling your caloric intake or controlling your macronutrient intake, it will always be an average. I've said it 1,000 times before, but I always use this example. If you take 10 pieces of chicken breast that are all 100 grams exactly, they will all have slightly different caloric contents. The reason they have different caloric contents is one might have an extra gram of fat, the other might have an extra gram of protein. So no matter how you go about tracking and measuring, you are always going to be measuring an average. So consistent.
Not every chicken is the same.
That's right. Yeah. Because
some run a little faster, some are jacked, some are fat and sit there for ages. It's exactly the same as people. You could get 4 different people who all weigh 60 kilos and they're going to look completely different. It's the same. Completely. It's exactly the same if you tracked a human in MyFitnessPal.
Exactly right. And depending on where, things grow, they'll have different nutrient densities, so on and so forth. So we've come to this place with if it fits your macros where we've tried to make something that is definitely not specific overly specific. So it's important and empowering to teach people. It's probably both. It's probably empowering and terrifying at the same time.
Yeah. I guess you could go the other way, right? Like you could go, oh, well, nothing makes sense anymore. Everything is meaningless.
Exactly. And we're not at all trying to teach people that. What we're trying to say is your average intake matters. Your average protein intake matters. Your average, caloric intake matters. But what we are also saying is that if you go over your carbohydrates by 10 grams and under your fats by 5 grams, that will not screw you up for the week. It also won't matter if it goes the other way around.
The other way, yeah. The overall average will be good enough. And I think obviously teaching that it's more so the average and not perfection. I think that kind of helps with the obsession as well.
Completely.
Then you're not fixated on those numbers, making sure those numbers are perfect every day, because I mean, life happens. And, we've definitely had clients who, are over or under by 10 grams or 5 grams, and they just beat themselves up. And then you get to the end of the day and you're making like weird meal concoctions to hit these exact macros, like 5 grams of fat. Oh, I'll just have some peanut butter. Like, I think you can definitely take it too far, and that obsession, of course you're going to be obsessed, right? You're focusing on the numbers. How could you not?
And there is a higher prevalence of eating disorders in people who track, but we don't know if that goes one way or the other. We don't know if they already had those tendencies and then tracking just made it worse. Or vice versa. We just know the two go together, and that makes sense, because most people with eating disorders are looking for a way to control something. If this macros is a really good way of controlling something. So it does make sense. But you touched on a really good point there that we've actually talked about before, which is when people go into If It Fits Your Macros, the goal is to remove restriction, right? The goal is to say you can eat anything as long as it fits into your macros. But then what do you do at the end of the day with your leftover macros? You cram in food you don't even enjoy because it's what's left and it's what fits. And this is where I think that whole concept of it's not a restrictive diet if you're on If It Fits Your Macros is a little bit skewed.
Because isn't that restrictive?
Yeah, that's completely restrictive. It restricts your calories and it restricts your macronutrient intake. So of course it's restricted. It's just not restricting a food group or restricting da-da-da-da. But I think that's the negative connotation that comes along with meal plans, is people think that they are innately restrictive. Most people haven't seen my meal plans, which are 14 pages long and have every food on there. But nonetheless, people do sort of think meal plan, okay, I'll have 2 options for every meal and that's all I'm allowed to eat.
Really, and that's demonized, hey?
Really,
I've seen that it's very, very new on social media and on Instagram and stuff, but I've really seen meal plans be really demonized. And I think it just comes down to the education and how you view it. I think they're great for, like you would agree, like they're great for teaching people about food over the numbers, obviously. And somebody who writes good meal plans, isn't going to give you meals you don't like or one meal for the rest of your bloody life. Like there's going to be balance, there's going to be communication. Like I don't know where the demonization came from.
I think it did come from the whole cookie cutter approach, right? So people handing out a meal plan that, breakfast is 2 egg whites and 20 grams of avocado and 100 grams of spinach. Of course, no one's looking forward to that every day of their life.
No.
What a meal plan has to look like. It doesn't have to be chicken, broccoli, and brown rice to be a meal plan. And that's definitely where the negativity, I think, started from. But what I've always found in my experience, because, you and I, we sit down with our clients, we talk about what they want before we plan together. It's not just, here you go, here's what I've given to everyone else. So I'll sit down, discuss with them what they like, what they don't like, food sensitivities, this, that, and the next thing. And I'll give them both what they want, but also what they need, because they probably haven't been eating all the things they needed. Otherwise they haven't come. Why would they come to?
Why are they there?
Exactly. So sometimes it's necessary to eliminate a food group or to reduce a food group because someone has a sensitivity. Shouldn't be the first point of call, but you go there if you need to. If I have someone who has gluten issues processing gluten, I'm not going to give them toast for breakfast, pasta for lunch, and then, you know, whatever for dinner. You're going to everything. That's it. You're going to think about it, process it, and make
personalize it.
Exactly right. So meal plans can be incredibly useful, but I can see where they get their negative side from. But don't you reckon food plans that are well developed actually get you to try more foods than you would on IIFYM macros? Because if it's macros, you tend to go back to the same things because it's easier to track, right?
It's easy. It's easy. You know, you like it. You're less inclined to try meals that you haven't before. Like, you're just going to make whatever's there, whatever's easy. And then you obviously focus on the numbers again. Like, I think meal plans are great. I don't think you need to do a meal plan for the rest of your life. Like, I mean, that should be the transition, right? Like, you should start, if you're someone who has low education in regards to nutrition, doesn't know what micronutrients are, doesn't really understand the process of it or the science behind it, meal plans are great for you to not only try different ingredients, different meal selections, but also it educates you, you know, like people, I find meal plans are great to kind of help the fear of some foods, you know, like if you see one meal that's like a spaghetti and it has pasta and then another meal that has rice in it, you're like, how do they match up, you know? So I think that education helps. But I think, you know, it's great because you can literally use that education to create a meal plan in MyFitnessPal that suits you, you know, and I think that's, well, preparation, right?
Yeah. So you're learning what works for your body through more structure or more structure, more education, more guidance. Yeah. Once you have that structure, that education and guidance, you can work within that structure to build something that's more sustainable long-term for you. Yeah. So I reckon meal plans as a starting point are freaking phenomenal. And some people, they're the best thing long-term. Other people move on to IIFYM macros, intuitive eating, whatever else. And that's 100% fine. But going into tracking macros before you've learned anything else will 9 times out of 10 really pigeonhole your, like, really, it'll bring down your idea of nutrition to a very simple set of numbers, which just doesn't do it justice, right?
Also, it can be demotivating, right? So if we have a client come on, right, their education level super duper low, and you're like, here's your macros, here's your protein, fats, and carbs target, and your fiber target, and sodium, like whatever you want to do, go nuts. And then a week later, you check in with them, like, hey, how you doing? It's like, hey, listen, well, I didn't hit anything because I have no education. And you're like, oh, just eat more protein. It's like, what's protein? Like, it's demotivating because they don't know, right? Like, and you just waste their time, waste your time, waste their money. Like, there needs to be, well, I mean, in any coaching, if it is to do with coaching, there needs to be education. There needs to be some substance.
Absolutely.
Like, you can't just give people numbers and be like, catch up.
It's lazy man's coaching, isn't it?
See you later. Good luck with that. Good luck with the protein. Like, you don't want to waste your time, especially if you're sitting down, you know, for half an hour a day in MyFitnessPal, trying to put together some meals. Like, if you have the basic education of what protein, fats, and carbs in and how to construct a meal, you're fine. But also you need to be prepared so that you can sit down and actually plan it rather than trying to chase your tail through the day as well.
Yeah. And the truth is, you can tick off your macronutrients without eating a whole lot of micronutrients as well, which is the other risk, right?
Yeah.
If all you're focused on is your macronutrients, you've got a much bigger chance of having nutrient deficiencies because you're not going to be thinking about food combinations, what you need to include to make sure you tick all of the micronutrient boxes. Like, we need our B vitamins to be able to metabolize carbs, proteins, and fats. So if we're not getting adequate amounts of those, we're not going to use them anyway. So why would we, you know? But
I think it looks really simple on paper. Like, it really does. Like, you log into MyFitnessPal and you're like, yep, I can fucking do this.
Hugely appealing from a simplicity perspective until the cracks start to show. So by no means. So Dak's definitely been pro if it fits your macros your whole life, but your view on it has changed recently. I've always been of the mindset that if it fits your macros doesn't suit everybody, because some people really just don't thrive on it, not because they couldn't, but because it's not their preference, and that should be perfectly fine. If they don't want to, if they run a multi-million-dollar company and they don't have time to track their macros, I'm okay with that. Just follow your plan, send it off to a meal prep company and get it sorted. So simplify it, follow that for yourself. For people who want to do if it fits your macros, though, like I said, I'm just very much about making sure they understand the basics before they move on to it. They need to earn the right to focus on their macros by learning about what they are and what the micronutrients do to support them. You know,
100%.
If you follow if it fits your macros, you're not, you know, how many micronutrients are listed there? It's like just sodium, isn't it?
I think it's like you got iron, potassium, vitamin A, vitamin C, and I think that's it.
Right. And so let's put it in perspective for everyone out there. So those nutrients, one, you know, you probably don't know what any of them do if you've only been tracking if it fits your macros. You probably know that if you don't get enough iron, you're going to be tired, and that's probably about it. But you also probably don't know that all of the entries that are entered from people rather than businesses don't have accurate information on any of those things. So they might say 0 when they've actually got 50 milligrams.
A little bit, yeah.
They might say 100 milligrams when they've actually got none, which means what you're tracking is not what you're eating, right? Yeah. Also, it doesn't account for when we're eating out and we're trying to track things that we can't possibly track accurately, right? We know that when we go out to a restaurant, we can track the main ingredients that we can see on the plate, but we don't know how much it weighs. We don't know how much oil they used. We don't know if there's butter on the bread, so on and so forth. We're just picking this thing up and putting it in our mouths, right? So what we're tracking versus what we're eating is going to vary, and it's going to vary significantly more if more of our meals are external. So there's just so many factors to think about when you're looking at if it fits your macros, that I think it shouldn't be touted as the easy thing to do.
Easier option. I mean, if you do it wrong, it's easy. Like if you keep it simply to macronutrient tracking, it's fucking easy. But if you actually take the science into it and go, okay, well, I actually care about my macronutrients. I actually care about my health at a deeper level. And like you said, like eating out, if you eat out once a week, it's not a huge issue at all. Like, but if you're eating out every day, also, where's your money coming from? But also like then you have to be smart about it, because it's like most people overestimate when they go out. So most people, and I am guilty of this back in the day, like it's always better to overestimate so you undereat, so you're in a deficit, so you lose weight, right? That's like, if you're overestimating on protein, like you're going to undereat on protein. So where's the positive in that? Exactly. Or if you go undervalue as well, then you're like, oh, fuck yeah, I got my food at the end of the day. But if you're trying to lose weight, then you're like, well, why am I not losing weight?
That's it. So one positive can elicit one negative without you even intending it to. And that, you know, these are all genuine concerns. So what it comes down to is if you track consistently and you don't eat out too often, you'll get a pretty good balance on your macronutrients, your caloric intake, all of that sort of jazz, but you're not going to learn a huge amount about your nutrition, and you're probably going to miscalculate some fairly important things, right? In terms of nutrition plans, if someone has set up a nutrition plan for you that is educated, they're going to be thinking about, okay, where's the nutrient? What's the nutrient density like? What foods are we combining in here to make sure that you're getting exposure to all of the amino acids?
All of them.
If you've got a vegetarian or a vegan client, you're going to be making sure that you've got complementary proteins in one meal so that they can perform at their best, all of these sorts of things. that just doesn't come into it with if it fits your macros, right? Because you don't know what the nutrient quality is, what the protein quality is.
Yeah.
So
yeah, you don't know what you should be building it together with. Like, you have no idea. You just focus on the macronutrients and that's it. And obviously sneaking in food that you like, which is not, not a bad thing. Like, if you're, you can have ice cream every day and be healthy, or lose weight or gain weight depending on your goal. But if you're putting in ice cream or fitting in those tacos or whatever you're going to fit in without really taking into account like are you actually hitting what you need to in regards to minerals and macros and stuff. Like, I mean, yeah, you're going to be skinny, or yeah, you're going to be jacked, but like, what's going to happen in 30 years?
Exactly right. And your gut health, it's super dependent on the varieties that you eat, and your gut health. Well, and your gut health affects your skin, and your gut health affects your neurotransmitters, and all of this other stuff. So it's we don't want to whittle nutrition down into these 6 numbers that are at the top of your MyFitnessPal page. We want you to understand that there's more to it than that, and that if it fits your macros, or MyFitnessPal can be a really good tool for tracking half of the equation, but it's not going to track the rest of it. The other thing that I always touch on with my clients that always drives them a bit nuts, and this is all the reason I teach people that not every gram of carbohydrates is 4 calories, so on and so forth, is because I want to let go of some of the control that the numbers have over them, not because I want to drive you guys nuts. But the other thing that I always teach people is your expenditure changes every single day. Your energy expenditure changes every single day. Some
What's
days,
your maintenance?
Yeah, exactly. So you're picking a number and you're watching your scale weight, and if your scale weight's staying the same, then you're in maintenance. But that number is not an exact number. If you put it up 50 calories or down 50 calories, your scale weight won't move. I promise you. It's not going to move. Your body will just adapt to that caloric change, and you will be totally fine either way. So what we're looking at is we're tracking an average, assuming that over the week our energy output is also an average, right? So some days we're putting out more, other days we're putting out less. If you really want to get fixated on macronutrients and what they do, shouldn't you be having more of them on the days that you're more active and less of them on the days that you're less active, and so on and so forth?
Yeah.
We can overcomplicate the crap out of this sort of jazz.
Oh, yeah.
If you're an elite athlete, should be complicated, right?
Chances are, if you're an elite athlete, you're paying someone to do that.
Exactly, and they're taking care of it for you.
They don't even know.
That's it. And if you are not an elite athlete, you need to let go of this need for control that actually builds a really negative rapport with food and your body, and so on and so forth. Because how many times when you were first tracking macros, Gorge, how many times did you think that if you ate over, you were going to wake up a kilo heavier the next day, or look like shit, or whatever else?
100%. Like, I think back to my thought process of like back then, like 10 years ago, and like I would fixate on, not eating a certain carbohydrate, but then I'd be okay with like having like, chocolate or something like that. Like, the way that your mind works is so fucking stupid. Like, you just like, you fixate on one thing, but allow yourself to do another, which is the same fucking thing. Like, it doesn't make any sense whatsoever. And I think really the main thing that we're trying to push is that if you're gonna put effort into downloading MyFitnessPal, hiring a coach, or getting a program, training, and trying to change your aesthetic, whether you're trying to gain or lose weight, I think you just need to put some effort into actually learning something. Like, do you want to sign up with a coach or download an app and do one thing for 6 to 12 months and come out of it with no knowledge or, no drive to improve on that? Like, you need the education.
Do you want to track your macros for a year, look freaking amazing, but be sad all the time and constipated because you don't know any better about the health side of things?
You don't know anything. Yeah.
That's it. We want to see everyone move towards balance. We want to see food relationships improve, food understanding improve. We don't want people to be terrified to go out for dinner. We don't want people to look at that social side of it. We want you to understand that there's pros and cons to every single approach, and you just need to figure out which approach works best for you. And the one that works best for you is the one you can be consistent with.
Yes. Everyone's journey is different, you know. Just because somebody you idolize or somebody you look up to does it that way doesn't mean that it's going to work for you. Doesn't mean you have to make it work for you. You know, you can't put a square in a circle. Like, you got to find the way that motivates you and drives you, but also helps you mentally. If it's a negative impact on your life, why do it?
And you just won't, will you? Like, you'll do it for 8 weeks and then you'll be screwed.
And then you're fucked.
Yeah. So basically, Dak and Lan say build a better relationship with food and get yourself educated.
Then track your macros. Thank you for watching, guys. Hopefully you learned something. If you have a journey that's similar to ours, or you want to share on your own personal experience in this area, like shoot us a DM, or comment below. We'd love to hear your history with MyFitnessPal as well.
Absolutely. Thanks for listening, guys.
See you next time.
Thanks for watching, guys. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and share.